from West Virginia Public Broadcasting.
Support for the Legislature Today is provided by the following.
AARP West Virginia, your ally for real possibilities in the Mountain State. Online at aarp.org/WV. The West Virginia Higher Education Policy Commission, working to double the degrees produced annually in our state by 2025 through increased opportunities for West Virginians to earn the credentials today's economy demands. The High Technology Foundation, building a stronger West Virginia. Online at wvhtf.org.
At the Legislature today, a House committee takes up the contentious right-to-work bill for the first time, and House Democrats cause sparks on the floor as they try to amend a crucial funding bill. And a special report tonight on new security measures and construction on the state capitol complex. Those stories and more coming up on the Legislature today. Good evening, I'm Ashton Mara. On the House of the floor today, delegates were set to consider a bill recently approved by the Senate, a bill to help balance the 2016 budget. Senate Bill 364 was on second reading until members of the GOP majority made a tactical move to block a Democratic amendment. Liz McCormick joins us now with more on the fireworks that then ensued on the House floor. Liz, tell us what happened today.
Right. So the Senate Bill 364 should have been read for a second time on the House floor today, but House Majority Leader Darrell Coles moved to have the bill held over until Monday because Democrats were going to attempt to amend the bill. Senate Bill 364 takes $52 million out of the state's rainy day fund to balance the 2016 budget. Democrats wanted to amend it to include more rainy day money to help fund PEIA, the state's public employee health insurance program. That program is struggling financially. The move to block the amendment upset some Democrats, including Delegate Isaac Spinagle. We hear from him first, followed by House Speaker Tim Armstead, who called the amendment a political move.
We truly believe, with over $800 million in the rainy day fund in the state of West Virginia, it's raining on teachers. There's a $120 million shortfall. In this past year, which we're talking about, there were $35 million in benefit cuts and $33 million were drained out of the account. Now, this does not put all of $120 million back into the account, but it's a start. If you don't like it, fine. Debate on it. Vote up or down. But that's our number one priority now. As has been said, we are a quarter through the year. And now we're just talking about PEIA, which was our number one issue before we even spoke here. But what we're repealing a prevailing wage, right to work, religious freedom bills, gun bills, every social agenda under the sun, but we're not worried about the issues that are affecting working West Virginians.
But we're trying to work through the issue of addressing both the PEIA needs and the immediate budget needs of the state. And I don't think they're trying to do that. I think they're trying to play political games to try to say, and so they can run out and say, oh, everyone voted against PEIA. No, we're working toward a solution on PEIA with the governor. And in fact, let's point out that the one solution the governor has put forward, and we're still working through with our members about where we'll be on that one, but there's certainly some concerns about it. But the Democrats have come out against their own governor's proposal to solve the PEIA issue. They're saying if they don't like the amount of tax, they want more taxation on tobacco before they'll agree to go along with his solution. So they're trying to take the money that their own governor says needs to be put in place to pay our bills now in order to solve this problem. And I don't think that's a solution that will work.
Senate Bill 364 will be back on the House calendar Monday. Governor Tomlin's administration is calling the bill critical to funding the state for the remainder of the fiscal year and has asked lawmakers to approve it by the end of next week.
Liz, thanks for that.
Thank you, Ashton.
The House Judiciary Committee took up a proposed right-to-work bill this morning on the heels of a public hearing earlier this week. The bill is moving forward despite opposition both in that hearing and during protests at the Capitol earlier in the session. Members of the House Judiciary Committee began debating Senate Bill 1 Friday morning and continued the discussion into the afternoon. The bill would make West Virginia a right-to-work state. Essentially, it would make it illegal to fire a person who refuses to join a union or who refuses to pay union dues or fees. Supporters say it protects the rights of workers who disagree with unions politically. Those who oppose it say if non-union employees in union workplaces no longer pay the fees that they collect to negotiate contracts, they'll struggle to provide those services. Both sides have argued their points loudly this legislative session, but House Speaker Tim Armstead says that with one of the lowest workforce participation rates of any state in the nation, it's time for West Virginia to try something new.
What we're doing hasn't worked, and there's no question it hasn't worked. And this is one of many creative solutions that we have learned from talking to those who look to employ West Virginians as part of that package of solutions that can really put our people back to work.
The bill was approved by the House Judiciary Committee Friday afternoon. Although the issue might not draw the crowds Right to Work does to a committee meeting, members of the Senate are still focused on how to expand access to broadband internet in West Virginia. This morning, the Senate Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure looked at another option to incentivize growth: tax credits for internet providers. Rob Engel has more.
The Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure approved a committee substitute Friday to Senate Bill 16, a bill that would provide up to $1 million in tax credits to any company delivering broadband service to certain hard-to-reach rural areas. Though the substitute does not go into specific detail about what defines an underserviced area, Senator Chris Walters, the committee's chair, says it would come down to the bandwidth speed of the homes that are being reached. Walters is the lead sponsor of another broadband bill, Senate Bill 315, which would provide the construction of statewide middle-mile fiber optic network. The middle mile is like a highway system of internet fiber built across the state. Walters says both bills incentivize broadband providers to get into hard-to-reach areas.
My bill builds an interstate system, Senate Bill 315, and this bill helps build off-ramps off the interstate to hits to houses. So they really complement each other very, very well. And again, whenever we have more competition out in rural areas because of the interstate system bill, more companies are going to be able to access these credits, get out to homes faster, and really bring the state on board, light us up even faster. So together they complement each other very, very well. I'm hopeful for passage of both.
The amended Senate Bill 16 was referred to the Committee on Finance, whose members will determine how to fund the bill. For the Legislature Today, I'm Rob Engel at the Capitol.
Robert Plymel is a Democrat representing the state's 5th senatorial district. From Wayne County, Plymel was elected to the Senate in 1992. Senator Plymel has held many leadership positions within the National Conference on State Legislatures and is the treasurer of the Southern Regional Education Board. Jim Butler is a Republican from Mason County. Representing the state's 14th House of Delegates district, he was elected in 2012. Delegate Butler serves as the vice chair of the Committee on Political Subdivisions. He also served in the U.S. Marine Corps. Jeff Foster was elected to the House of Delegates in 2014. He's a Republican from Putnam County and represents the 15th House District.
Over the past year, there have been plenty of changes on the Capitol complex, from a newly constructed fence around the governor's mansion to an added bus turnaround that allows charters full of visitors to easily access the grounds. But there have been some changes to the main Capitol building as well. Rob Engel has the details on the new security measures recently implemented at the State House.
As lawmakers from the House and Senate pass bills around the rotunda, members of the public are also passing through new security checkpoints installed at the Capitol for the 2016 session.
The most recent round of discussion started after the 2015 legislative session, and we had representatives from all three branches in those discussions, and they culminated in the decision to operate directed public access points in the building.
The security points are located at 2 places in the main Capitol building, the wheelchair-accessible entrances of the east and west wings. Assistant Secretary for the Department of Public Safety, Larry Messina, says discussions of increased security have been in the works for nearly 15 years.
To a degree, it's somewhat like what you encounter when you would travel by air and have to go to an airport. You walk through a magnetometer, your items in your pockets that may set up the magnetometer are put in bins to be inspected or to go through an x-ray machine, and your baggage is screened with an x-ray machine.
All members of the public must enter through one of these checkpoints to actually get into the Capitol this legislative session. Security officials remind anybody looking to enter the Capitol just to use common sense, to budget time accordingly to get through security, but also to leave any prohibited items at home or in the car.
And prohibited items include firearms, various categories of knives. The policy also addresses defensive items like pepper sprays being prohibited. As you might imagine, controlled substances are prohibited.
Past the detectors, security measures have also been tightened within the building. Anyone wishing to sit in the President's Gallery above the Senate must get a free ticket from the office of Clark Barnes, the Senate clerk.
There's no hard and fast rule of who sits here, but you do have to have permission. The doorkeepers will not allow folks without a ticket to sit in this gallery. We just don't have the luxury of having open buildings. We have a lot of employees here, we have a lot of guests here, and we're very interested in keeping our people safe, keeping the people that come to visit us safe.
The overall personnel cost for the new Capitol security is an estimated $732,000 for 1 year. But Capitol Police Sergeant Mark Swecker says security is essential for keeping legislation running smoothly.
We're able to ease the minds of the other employees. Rather than worrying about who may be just coming in, they know that they have been checked. It just gives them more of a peace of mind where they can do their jobs and not have to have all the little ancillary issues associated with it.
After session, the East Wing Capitol security checkpoint will remain in place year-round. Both East and West Wing security stations will be open when lawmakers return for interim session meetings. For West Virginia Public Broadcasting, I'm Rob Engel in Charleston.
Aside from the new security measures, the state has taken on a few construction projects throughout the Capitol complex as well in the past year, including a complete overhaul of Building 3. The building once held agencies like the Division of Natural Resources and the Department of Health and Human Resources, but sat vacant for years. Now, Governor Tomlin's administration is working to give it new life. Construction on Building 3 on the state capitol complex began in July of last year, and 7 weeks in, crews were still in the demolition phase, tearing down walls and cleaning out old electrical and plumbing systems that were installed when the building was first constructed in the 1950s.
The building had been built in 1951. It had had continuous use over 60 years, and it was very worn out.
Robert Krause is an architect and engineer for the state working on the Building 3 project. Krause says the building's plumbing, electrical, heating, and air conditioning systems were in severe disrepair. Workers tore out all of the systems, starting on the top floor, and worked their way down. The upper floors held the offices of various state agencies dealing with the health of the state's citizens and wildlife. But the first floor is probably the most recognizable to West Virginians of a certain generation. It held the state's Division of Motor Vehicles long before the regional offices were created.
In 1951, all the license plates and motor vehicle registrations were issued in Charleston. So everyone from around the state had to come here to get their driver's license or get plates for their car. And this was a room where it all happened in.
That room today holds old signs and debris, but it once housed brass teller windows with marble countertops. Krause says those iconic features will all be restored. So when everything is finished, we'll see these teller windows again?
You'll see the teller windows again. You'll see the brass on top of it, all cleaned up and refurbished. And we've got some office spaces behind it, but this will also be a public lobby.
Everybody that has come to the complex when the DMV was here remember standing in the long lines to get their driver's license. They remember when Washington Street used to come straight through the campus. It's something that anybody who's visited here, this building with its premier green roof is one that everybody recognizes. And the fact that it's in the repair that it's in right now means that we have to spend some money to take care of it. And we think it's an investment that will go long into the future for the state.
That investment is an estimated $34 million. Some of the money is from the state's general revenue account. Lawmakers dedicated $6 million to the project from surplus revenues last year, but most of the funding comes from a bond measure that will take the state 25 years to repay. Still, Acting Secretary of the Department of Administration Jason Pizzatella says it's a worthwhile project, even in tough economic times.
This will be the largest construction project on the state capitol complex since the Culture Center was completed in 1976. So not only is this an economic development project at a time when we need it, but this is also a way to restore one of the premier properties that's on this complex.
A St. Albans-based company won the bid for the construction project, and Pizzatella estimates that on any given day, some 300 West Virginians are working on the site, hauling out old materials, installing electrical lines, eventually painting walls. While those finishing touches may not come for months yet, construction superintendent Sidney Harmon says he's concerned with one thing throughout the entire process: protecting the building's historical elements.
This is the 8th floor of the building. This is where our initial demolition for the structure started. You can see the floor system here. We're trying to protect the terrazzo, the historical features of it. The walls, the marble base, the plaster, the historic door frames are being protected. The doors have been taken down for the state to take possession of. They're historic, and we've got to protect this area to make it, bring it back to the 1951 style.
So over here you've got some of the materials you all are using, and you're putting these up to protect?
Yes. This material on the wall will stay here almost till the very end of construction to protect the marble and the historic features of the building.
Pizzatella agrees maintaining the integrity of the building is a top priority for Governor Tomlin's administration. Building 3 was designed by Cass Gilbert Jr., the son of Cass Gilbert, who designed the main Capitol building decades earlier. In the future, it will house the state's Commerce Department, including the Development Office, which works to bring new businesses to the state, and the Division of Tourism, which will take over those refurbished brass teller windows to help visitors learn about West Virginia.
People that are come to visit the campus will be able to come in this building and experience all that's great about West Virginia. And so we're excited about the tenant mix that will be here, and it will just be another way that we can showcase the beautiful Capitol complex.
Construction on the site is expected to be complete in October this year. And here to update us this evening on the latest details of renovations to Building 3 is Acting Secretary of the Department of Administration, Jason Pizzatella. Secretary, thank you for being here.
My pleasure, Ashton. Thank you for having me.
So where are we now? Where do things stand today at Building 3?
We're about 40% complete, and we are well on track to meet that October 2016 completion deadline for it to be finished and for everyone to be present to dedicate this renovation project that we're also very excited about.
We saw in that story that they were still in the demolition phase when we visited last summer. Have they started installing all of those systems that they talked about? They said electrical, air conditioning, heating. Are we at that part of the process yet?
They've started all of that. They completed the demolition about a month ago. I was just in the building about a week ago, and all of the sprinkler systems have been installed on all 8 floors, and they are starting the walls, as you say, the electrical system, the security system, all the things that go into making it a modern office building are underway as we speak.
Let's talk about some of the spaces. I don't think we got to saw in this piece that there are a lot of walls. When you go to walk into an office space, you see a secretary's office and then another door to get to the office spaces that the various departments are working into. That's not what it's going to look like when it's finished.
No, it's not. And we're excited that it's going to be a modern and functional office that has an open floor platform. That is, there'll be plenty of light. There will be a lot of interaction between the agencies and those that are working in those agencies on those various floors, and it'll be completely unlike anything we've done on the Capitol complex before. And so, to turn this 1960 building into something that's modern and functional, that everyone who comes to visit there, whether it's for business or pleasure, can be excited about, is something that we and Governor Tomlin are very proud of.
I want want to talk about that a little bit more because the development office is going to be in that building, an office that tries to attract business to West Virginia, but also tourism is going to be located on the first floor, something that tries to attract visitors. Why is it important to have both of those offices in the same space?
They work together all the time. And so to have them so close, to have everyone that comes to visit, if they're looking for a travel guide or if they're looking to open a business, whether it's 5 employees or 500 employees, everyone that comes into that building will be able to be treated with all of the agencies that they need to be all in one space and in a modern space. And it's one that when the commerce officials are traveling nationwide and worldwide for that matter to try to recruit new businesses, they are constantly seeing states that we are competing with for businesses every day have these modern facilities that people come into and just have that wow factor. Building 3 is going to have that wow factor when it's finished.
Yeah, and can we also talk a little bit more about the historical importance, because this building was designed by the son of the person who designed the main Capitol building, and we've done a lot to make sure that that building has stayed in the shape that it's in.
We certainly have, and I think both Cass Gilbert and Cass Gilbert Jr., if they were alive today, would be extremely proud of it. As you said in the earlier piece, it has been a few years since this building got the TLC that it deserves, but I think it'll be well worth the wait once it's finished.
Now, there was a little bit of controversy about some other changes at the Capitol complex, including this fence around the governor's mansion because it took over some parking spaces. Can you talk about that change?
Yeah, the perimeter security fence is phase 1 of a 2-phase security project for the entire campus. And the governor's mansion was first, and it was done simply because we wanted to provide an extra layer of security for not just the folks that live there, but the folks that work there and come to visit. And so we were pleased that project was able to be completed on time and on budget, and provides that extra layer of security for the mansion that we gave to Building 1 over the last few months.
So you said that's phase 1. What comes next?
Phase 2 is our security features that go around the entire Building 1, all the way to California Avenue. And it's one that is not in the construction stage yet because funding is limited, and we're going to prioritize our resources, and when funding becomes available, that next phase will likely get underway.
Well, plenty of changes happening, and I'm sure the governor is glad that you're overseeing them. Acting Secretary of the Department of Administration, Jason Pizzatella, thank you for being here.
My pleasure, Ashton. Thank you.
There are 134 members of the West Virginia Legislature between the House and the Senate, but the number of staff supporting those members is far larger. Today we meet the Clerk of the House, who explains his job at the State House.
My name is Steve Harrison. I'm the Clerk of the House of Delegates. I'm a native of Kanawha County, grew up in Sissonville, graduated from Sissonville High School in 1985, was recruited to play football at Brown University, went to Brown, graduated in 1990 with a triple concentration of economics, political science, and organizational behavior and management. Came back here, went to work in the banking industry, and worked in banking for a total of 24 years plus before I became Clerk of the House. But early in my years in banking, I ran for the House of Delegates, got elected at the age of 26, served 5 terms in the House, and got elected to the Senate in 2002, served a term in the Senate and decided not to run for re-election. And then when the majority changed after the last election, the incoming Speaker, Delegate Armstead, he asked me if I'd be interested in becoming Clerk of the House, and in December I was nominated by the Republican caucus and then elected in January as the 23rd Clerk of the House. The clerk is, I guess, really the primary administrator for the House of Delegates. We have 5 employees in the clerk's office in addition to myself in the legislative portion of the clerk's office. We have an assistant clerk and parliamentarian. We have a journal clerk. We have a bill status clerk. We have a documents clerk, and we also have an administrative assistant. And when you watch the session and you see the front desk, we're up there processing the bills. One of the things I found in my first year as clerk is how busy it is out of session. I knew session would be busy, and session's very unpredictable. You don't know how long you're going to be here. Some evenings are very long. The hours are more predictable in the off season, but still very busy with the paperwork and other things that need done wrap up the previous session and get ready for the next session. I love going out and taking people into the chamber, and we do mock sessions occasionally, and usually when I get a student group, I'll take them up to the speaker's podium, let them ring the call bell, let them ring the voting gong, and just try to encourage them to be interested in the process. And I'll say to them, you know, maybe one of these days some of you will be sitting in here.
Next week on our show, we'll continue meeting the chairs of various committees. On Monday, the chairs of the House and Senate Government Organization Committees join us, Delegate Gary Howell and Senator Craig Blair. This has been the Legislature Today. I'm Ashton Mara. Thanks for joining us.
Support for the Legislature Today is provided by the following.
AARP West Virginia, your ally for real possibilities in the Mountain State. Online at aarp.org/WV. The West Virginia Higher Education Policy Commission, working to double the degrees produced annually in our state by 2025. Through increased opportunities for West Virginians to earn the credentials today's economy demands. The High Technology Foundation, building a stronger West Virginia. Online at wvhtf.org. From West Virginia Public Broadcasting.